the previous video, we saw how we can set up lights and natural lighting or artificial lighting inside Unreal Engine 5. We also saw some different techniques to generate here like a night scene using the sun and sky, and also how we can set up IES lights and also how to use lights as projectors. So in this video, we're gonna move forwards into post-processing or post-producing inside Unreal Engine 5. So we're gonna see some render settings, we're gonna see how we can use cameras, how we can use the depth of field, and also other settings, other effects that we can use with the cameras or with the post-production. Now I'm gonna delete some of these assets here that I don't need anymore. Also there you can see I'm using a HDRI, so we're gonna see how we can set up a HDRI system, so we can do image-based lighting or IBL. So if I go inside my building here, you can see that's my post-process volume, and that's what's doing the most of the work here. So if I jump into this, now you can see everything changes, and this is the way you can use post-process volume. You can use it to manage the whole scene or just a portion of the scene. So you can add many different post-process volume within the same scene in order to make it change. And you can see here I have like bloom effects, lens effects, vignetting, and these cameras here. So if I want to use a camera, I can just, when I set up the camera, I can move into a camera like that. And inside you can see I have additional settings like the depth of field or focus in focus. Now if I switch to game view, I can also deactivate all the other assets and I can just play this as a camera. You can see I have a widescreen format. So all these settings, before you actually move into the final render, you can do them with the post-process, you can do them with the camera, depending on what you need to do. So I'm just gonna go here you can use camera actor or cinematic camera, which are pretty similar, but cinematic camera has like more settings, more effects that you can use. Okay, so just want to go now into my, and you can also switch here into cinematic viewer or default. Okay, let's go back to default and let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is I want to start from the beginning as always. So I'm gonna get rid of all the system here, because when I need to use HDRI like this, I need to apply it to the skylight. So I'm gonna select the skylight right there, and I'm gonna delete all this stuff so that we can bring it back together. So just gonna delete my directional light. There we go. And also the various atmospheric effects like the sky atmosphere. I'm gonna delete this. Okay. And the clouds, volumetric clouds. There we go. And also the fog. Now you can see by isolating the different effects that you can perhaps study them a little bit better. This is the exponential height, for example. So if you go here, when everything else is deactivated, you can focus on that and you can understand better how it's going to work here with the intensity, and you can change the scattering color, so you can create some really nice, again, like, you know, post-production effects like fog. And so let's delete also this one here. So this is going to be like total black, except for the emissive materials there and some of the artificial lights from the previous video. And again, right here, I am in the post-process volume, and I'm also going to get rid of that so we can create it and modify it together. So let's delete. So this is kind of a standard scene that you could import from another software like SketchUp or Revit or whatever, or perhaps this is an Unreal Engine 4 scene and you want to get it ready for Unreal Engine 5. Now, the first thing we need to do, as usual, is to check the project settings. This is the first step. Go into project settings. Now, all the part concerning the rendering is going to be into Engine, And if you scroll down, go into the rendering section, and here there are really a lot of parameters. I cannot go through all of them. You can do that with the manual, but right now I'm just going to show you the thing concerning the rendering and post-process volume. So let's scroll down here to post-processing. You can see here you have some option, and again, you can use right away the bloom effects, the ambient occlusion, auto exposure, which is, we're not going to use auto exposure, we're going to use it manually. We're going to make it manual. So these parameters here will be overridden by the post-process volume. So you can do whatever you want here. This is going to affect the whole world. But when you are inside the post-process volume, the post-process volume is going to override all this stuff here. Again, motion blur, lens flare, anti-aliasing. This is also important for rendering and render quality. You can increase the render quality by increasing the anti-aliasing, but also this is gonna make things heavier. Okay, let's go down, and well, we have some extra stuff here, but the thing that we really need is this ambient occlusion, anti-aliasing, and global illumination. So let's go back. There we go. So this is the global illumination part, and here we have lumen set up. That's okay. Now there are also some things that are in beta version which are probably going to be used in the future, but right now we're going to use lumen for global illumination for reflection method. You can increase the quality here also by increasing samples. Any time you see this, you can increase the quality by increasing samples. And here also softer ray tracing mode, you can have detail tracing, or you can make it less heavy by selecting global, but this is going to be more accurate, so let's leave it to detail. And also you have shadow maps or virtual shadows, which are like a little bit more specific and accurate, but I'm gonna keep it like standard here. You will also have hardware ray tracing options and software ray tracing here. This is also important to generate mesh distance fields. Make sure this is on, and that's pretty much it. These are like the most important settings you have here. Okay, once you check that, the second step is to apply some environment, and this is also where you can insert HDRI image. So all you need to do is go to Window and go to Environment Light Mixer. This is a management panel where you can add right away all the things that you need, and you can switch anytime to normal to advanced, so you have more option. You can see right now we already have a skylight apparently, so I didn't delete it. Let me just delete this so we can do things from the start. So what I'm gonna do is just create skylight, create atmospheric light, which is gonna be the sun, you can see there. Create the sky atmosphere, which is gonna give us the background, and create volumetric cloud if you want some nice volumetric cloud. Create a fog to have the fog that's gonna hide a little bit things that are too far. So that's all you need to do. Now, when you want to get HDRI, you need to go here into Skylight. We need to set up this for advanced. Now, first thing you need to check here is to have real-time capture on Skylight, and make sure that all the lights are movable, like the directional light, make sure that's movable. So it's gonna be dynamically computed. Now, this is where we can add a cube map, which is gonna be our HDRI instead of this one here, which is gonna be like the standard. So this is right now projecting from the sky atmosphere the light into your scene. This is what your skylight is doing right now. It's using that sky atmosphere that it finds around to project that lighting inside your scene. And we already saw that if you press Ctrl L, you can move the sun, and this is going to affect the sky atmosphere, which is this kind of interactive HDRI that you have. And this is also going to affect the color of the scene and the intensity of the sunlight and the skylight together. So this is everything working as a system. Now you can substitute that capture scene with the specified cube map, and here is where we're gonna insert our cube map. Now if I go here, I can go into my content browser. If I click on this, you can see I've already insert a couple of texture. This one here, it's actually a test which is gonna be found inside Unreal Engine. So let me get rid of the sky atmosphere right now. Let me just delete it, and let's do real-time capture here. Okay, so right now I'm lighting my scene with this other texture here. Let me just change this to an, and it's not really visible, but I'm using this one right here right now. So actually I'm going to also deactivate the sunlight so we can see this better. So if I set this to 0, you can see that light is still there, because right now I'm not lighting up with the directional light but with that image, and this is why it's called image-based lighting. So right now I'm lighting my scene with this cube map right here. Now what if I want to see that cube map also in the background? You need to activate a plugin. So you need to go to plugin and type Hdri, and you need to activate the Hdri Backdrop. So this is where we're gonna insert our image for the background. So it's gonna work for the background and for the reflections. So if I go into place actor, all classes, go to the H for Hdri, and there you should find this Hdri Backdrop. Now if you click there, it's gonna apply an Hdri right away, which is not the one that we want. You can move it up or down here. You can rotate it if you want. It's gonna be here. You can see here now the Hdri Backdrop, and I can fix the parameters here. I can change the size. I can change the intensity, which is going to affect the lighting on the scene. Okay, because again, this is now used by the skylight to project light inside my scene. This one here. So if I want to use the same one, I'm gonna use this Shanghai night. Okay, and maybe intensity is too much. Now, most of the time, the image-based lighting is not enough. You need to add more lights to have a nice lighting. But with this one here, you can have nice reflections and nice surroundings for your render. Okay, and it's pretty quick and pretty easy. You can also rotate. Here you have the rotation and scale and things like that. Now I also like the first one, which is the one that is gonna insert automatically. It's gonna be like this countryside Hdri, which is good. So you can use that and not use it here for the skylight. So here you can go back to your capture scene. So let me just go here and reset this. So this is gonna be like the standard, but we're gonna keep the Hdri Backdrop, and maybe I will decrease the intensity a little bit. It's too intense right now. So default value is 1. Okay, but you can see there is something missing because this is an exterior scene, so you definitely need a directional light. So again, you can go to environment light mixer and create atmospheric light, create sky atmosphere again. So you either use that or the sky atmosphere, but you can still use it with the Hdri Backdrop. Okay, now I can Control L and move the sun here, but you will see that it will not affect the Hdri anymore. So you need to make sure that the Hdri and the sun, they fit and they are represented accordingly. Okay, so let's move on into post-processing. So you can create here many other things in the volume section. You have like blocking volume, which are gonna act like collisions, so they're gonna block things from happening depending on what you need to do, block. And also here you have other types of volumes, but some of these you won't never use them, like the light mask. This is for the old static rendering, which you can still do, but these are like old. And this is the post-process volume, so you will find it here, post-process volume or visual effects. There you go. So here you will find also volumetric cloud, sky atmosphere, exponential eye fog, and also some tools for reflections to increase the reflection quality. So in this case, we're going to use the post-process volume. And there you go. Now, this is where everything will happen. Now, you can create a post-process volume which is going to affect the entire scene. And to do that, you need to select it and type infinite. So here is where you can unconstrain the post-process volume effects, so you can apply to everything. So right now, you can see I am outside that box, but even though I am outside, if I change here anything, so let's go, for example, in the exposure. Okay, make sure you type the exact. Okay, so if I, right now we are in auto exposure. So if I change this from auto to manual, I can change the exposure here. So I can make it the one that I want in any part of the scene. So this is affecting the whole level, not just that box. But if I create another one and I don't change that infinite setting there, okay, so this is now only be inside this box. So everything I do is going to be confined inside that box. So if I want to change here, let me just scale it up. So I'm gonna scale it. Okay, and let's say now that I want to do something with this post-process volume. So let's get started here with something really, well, let's just go for the exposure again. So let's just type exposure and okay, again, let's make this manual. And this is also needed when you want to use the camera settings to adjust the exposure. So you see you have manual, and then we can activate this, and we can activate also physical camera options. So if I change this now, nothing happens, but if I move inside that, it's going to change everything. So let's say that inside this box, this is my exposure right now. So if I move outside the box, there's my original effect from the world, and this is how the post-process volume is affecting the world. Now you can do a lot of things with post-process volume, like changing the color of the scene, changing many effects. We're gonna see some of those in just a minute. Just gonna move this inside to make things more interesting. So of course, if I move inside, I'm gonna have less light, so probably I want to increase the exposure. But this time we're not gonna increase it with this. I'm gonna show you some camera settings. Now, before we get into that, I just want to go all the way down here. You can see in post-process volume, we have a lot of things to set. We really have really important stuff here. But let me just close the ones that we're not gonna see. Again, you can go in the manual if you want to see all of this stuff. There is really a lot of things here. Now, these post-process volume settings are gonna define the priority of the post-process volume. So if you overlap more process volumes together, you can set the priority. So the order of overriding the other post-process volumes. And this is the blend radius. So this is when you change from outside the post-process volume inside. You can see there is a like fading, so you can change that. You can increase it to make things less dramatic. So it's gonna change slowly now. and the more I go far from the process volume, the more it's gonna go into the original. So it's just changing the fading out, fading in of the effect based on the distance, essentially. Okay, and then also here you have blend weight, and there you go. That there's your infinite right there, or you can just disable it anytime if you want. Okay, now let's go to the camera. Remember that we set up manual exposure. So I'm just gonna go all the way up here, and in the lens section we have, I think, the most important stuff here. So just gonna close everything here to make things more organized. So location, lens, and we're gonna talk later about depth of field. Just gonna go down here. You can see I'm scrolling down. You will find a section called exposure. This is where the exposure happens, and you also have additional settings, and that's my camera settings here. So I can use a camera, I can create a camera, but I can also use the standard camera here. So if I start to apply this stuff, this is going to affect the brightness or the exposure of my scene. And these are real values that you find in real life. So for example, if you increase the shutter speed, you're going to decrease the intensity of and the brightness of the image and of the lights. If you decrease this value, which means that the shutter speed is going to go slow, which means that more light is going to get into your camera, things are going to become brighter. Shutter speed affects the motion blur. ISO also, you will find them in cameras. They affect, again, the intensity of your shot. And aperture, it's this one here, controls the depth of field, so the focus and in focus. So if you want to have a nice depth of field, a really strong depth of field, we need to decrease this to 1.2, but this is opening up the shutter, and so we need to make it faster or decrease the ISO. So everything here needs to be balanced. Okay, now if you set up the aperture here, let me just go right here. Okay, so we can define the depth of field. So there you go, this is depth of field. And well, we have standard settings here and more advanced settings. And there you go, this is one. Let's set this to 100. Okay, and well, sometimes I find this a little bit difficult to set up. So I need to find out what's the focal distance here. So you can just go like step by step until you find, there you go. So you can see this is right now in focus, the rest it's out of focus. Okay, so just play around, and remember that this is about how you set up the f-stops. So let's make this like 50. Okay, and you can see there it's pretty blurred in the background, but if I go here and increase the aperture, the effect is going to be less visible. If I increase it, it's going to be more visible. And again, I need to fix this in order to make it right. So I don't know, maybe it's 48 or maybe it's like 54. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so again, you have a lot of other additional settings here, but I don't have the time to go through all of that. But let's see the most important. I'm gonna go all the way to the top. So the most interesting things are in the lens section. So you have bloom, for example. So you can, well, these are all like realistic effects that you are in real life, so they're gonna make things a little bit better and more realistic. You also have different types, like this one here, which is called convolution, and it's kind of pretty nice. And well, again, additional settings, a lot of stuff. Exposure again. Now I think we cleared that out. Chromatic aberration, definitely this is one of the effects that you have in real life. Then it's gonna be depending on the it's kind of a defect of the lens, but since it's a defect, it's gonna make things a little bit more realistic. So lens distortion, chromatic aberration, dirt mask. You can apply a mask on top of your scene of your view to make it more dirty and more realistic. We already saw the camera there. Lens flare, definitely yes. So you have this kind of again, these are due to the lens, and they're gonna give that extra realistic look. And you can change the tint here and all other stuff you like, the bokeh shape. So let's go more down. Definitely vignette intensity. This is gonna like create that black corners, which also happen in reality. Depth of field, color grading. Here you have a lot of stuff to manage the shadows, midtones, highlights. Kind of, it's like working in Photoshop. You have like saturation here, so you can change the way colors behave in your scene. There you go. So you can desaturate your scene if you want, or apply more colors. Contrast, just go there and experiment. This is all I can tell you. So these are gonna affect basically the black parts of your scene, the midtones, the brightest parts of your scene. Okay, and then we can apply some filmic look here. You can see there. And also the film grain is kind of a defect, which is it's gonna make things a little bit more realistic. So let's increase it. You can see like flickering around, a characteristic of filmic look, so kind of a noise. And let's go up again here to miscellaneous. Well, we have other stuff here. Again, just make sure to experiment with all of that stuff. Global illumination. Now this is how we can use lumen, and also we can set up quality. So we can increase final gator quality, we can increase the scene details, also here, final gator quality, advanced, also global illumination. We can increase bounces. We can check and manage the indirect lighting, reflections. So this is all the stuff that is gonna like improve the render quality. There you go, again, ray tracing, bounces, roughness, shadows, things that are in materials and so on. And ambient occlusion, and motion blur if you want. Now you can set up motion blur, ray tracing, ambient occlusion. So you really have a lot of stuff here. It's gonna really take a lot of time. So make sure that you experiment a little bit. Try to increase the quality since you get to the point that you want. Now, just to show you real quick, this is ambient occlusion. This is what it's going to create like black ambient shadows, where the lights is not gonna be able to hit the surface directly. It's gonna generate that ambient occlusion. And then you have anti-aliasing also. We found this in the project settings, so you can increase it or decrease it. This is gonna fix this problem, which is caused by pixels. Depth of field, yes, you will find information about depth of field and f-stop if you are interested. And this is the shutter aperture. HDRI, almost forgetting about HDRI. If you don't know what HDRI is, these are like environment texture, and Polyoven is a website where you can find them. So this one here is the one that I used, but if you go to Polyoven, HDRIs, you will find a lot of those to use in your scene. And well, essentially what you need to do to use the HDRI is to go here and where is it? The skylight. Yeah, change this to advanced, and you can see now it's empty there. So all you need to do is drag and drop your HDRI just like a standard image. You drop it into the content drawer or content browser, and from there you can drag and drop the image inside the cube map. That's all you need to do. Or you just click there and select it. So if you want to drag and drop, you can see here the HDRI. This is just clicking and dragging, and this is 8K. So I can click and drag that and place it right there. Now it's not making me do that because I need to switch to specified cube map. So now you can see I will be able to drop that in. Okay, this is just to be more precise on that topic. Okay, now remember that if you have any issue, you can contact us, you ask for assistance and so on. Now let's see also how we can use a camera. So I can go here and say, okay, insert camera right here. So create camera here, and you can use camera actor or scene camera actor. So let's create a camera actor, and there you go. And to get inside that, I need to go here and say, okay, I want to use camera actor. There you go. Now I am inside the camera actor, and as we saw in the post-process volume, we have all those values, real life values that we can set. We have bloom, we have exposure, we have the depth of field, so all of the stuff that we have seen so far in the post-process volume. So you can use cameras as well, and also you have also additional things here, but the most important stuff is that. Now you can change the field of view. For example, this is I think this is one important thing, because, and I believe I'm not seeing that camera actor, so I think it's this other one. Yeah, that it is. So you can change, you can see that change the depth of field changes also the focus, and the f-stop value is going to be affected, and also the aspect ratio if you want to have like more filmic look. There you go. Now if you expand this, the field of view, you're going to have a larger capture of your scene, but you're going to lose the depth of field effect. So you can see now, the more I increase the field of view narrowness, and more I'm going to have that depth of field effect. And also remember that these are values that you find in reality, so you can check the lenses. They are like telescopic lenses or panoramic, and you can change those. Now we can create also camera from here, and scene camera actor. So you click here, you can create one. I've already created one, so I just want to show you how it's a little bit different from the standard one. So there you go. Right now I am inside the cinema actor, and everything is dark. So it's probably an issue of the camera, so the exposure probably. So definitely we want to check that. And here, just to show you the difference, you can see that we have the settings of real lens, and also here this is gonna affect the field of view and the depth of field and everything else. And right now you can see you have also the focus method, which can be used with this speaker. Now probably I don't see anything here because I am in the wrong exposure, so I'm gonna go into exposure and see what's happening here. Exposure, let's make this manual. Let's see the ISO. Okay, let's just increase this. All right, there you go. So, and this is really a close shot, so I'm gonna go into this one, and let's try with 1690 and change is to 30. Okay, now we have a larger depth of field. And again, let's go to game view and let's change here. Well, we can fix any other problems, and when we are finished, we can go to high resolution screenshot. So this is how we're gonna save our image. We can also increase the screenshot size multiplier and capture. We've seen this at the beginning of the video course. So this is gonna be all for this lesson. And if you're interested also in like more accurate renderings, you should give a look to V-Ray, Corona, but also Lumion and also Twinmotion. And you will find those in the channel, or you can again ask for assistance. So thanks for watching and see you in the next lesson.